friends, welcome to the channel. I'm Olivia, and if you've never seen my face before, you can consider me your fragrance fairy godmother. So for today's video, I am going to be continuing my series of focusing on specific perfume brands that I'm super duper excited about because, as I said last week, I have been very overwhelmed with the amount of fragrance releases that we have had this year, and from the comments, it sounds like you guys are too. So I really want to focus in on fragrance brands that I love wholeheartedly, everything they stand for, from the ingredients to the packaging to the scent profiles and their ethos. And today I thought none other would be more appropriate than a fragrance brand that I've talked about on this channel many a time, and that is none other than Andrea Maack. I've talked about Andrea Maack fragrances on this channel time and time again because I love them so much. So a lot of you were suggesting that I do an overview of the entire house, and I have full-size bottles of almost every single fragrance in the line, but a couple of them are samples that I'm working off of. I've tried them many a time, so I can speak with authority. So to give a little backstory about the brand was founded by an Icelandic visual artist named Andrea Maack. And in one of her visual art installations, she implemented the use of scent, so her artwork was scented. And she said that a lot of people were approaching her, asking her where they could purchase the fragrance, and she said it's just part of the artwork. It's not really a fragrance for sale. But a lot of people were showing a deep amount of enthusiasm for the fragrance, and so that got her on a new journey, and that is being the founder of this fragrance house. Now, she is not the perfumer herself, but she works hand in hand with a lot of really incredible perfumers, and you can tell by the quality of the fragrances. And the fragrances are made out of 88 to 89% natural materials. And for the synthetic compounds, they use these in order to avoid over-harvesting of natural materials that need to stay in nature. I also really appreciate that they've made an effort to make their packaging very minimalistic, and they're completely recyclable. So there's not a lot of bulk, there's not a lot of frills, but there is really high quality artistry behind the fragrances. And it happens to be one of my favorite fragrance houses of all time. So I thought we'd start with the very first scent that started it all, called Smart. So Smart actually stands for smell art, and this was the scent that was utilized in her visual artistry, that she used the element of scent, and this is the one that people really wanted her to turn into a perfume, in which she did. Unfortunately, this is one that I have only gone through samples of, but I feel like given it's the cornerstone of her entire fragrance brand, I need to get a full-size bottle. So this is a vanilla fragrance, but this is not going to be a very sweet vanilla fragrance. This is going to start off with some very heady jasmine. It's going to come off quite fresh, and the vanilla in this comes off more floral, more of a vanilla orchid, and less of a gourmand type vanilla. That freshness in the beginning is also coming from a little bit of violet leaf, giving it almost a bright, crunchy feeling on the opening. As this dries onto the skin, you start to get the warmth of the vanilla accompanied with a buck skin. So you're getting something that's warm, animalic, and leathery, and a little bit musky. So overall, this is fresh in the opening and dries down to a floral vanilla with a little bit of a soft, leathery, musky undertone. And I like the journey that this fragrance takes you through, because in the beginning you are getting something bright, almost slightly vegetal, but as it dries on the skin, you get something lightly powdery, soft, and cocooning. It's a delicate fragrance that I think would be good for any day, any occasion, and all of her fragrances are very truly unisex. And I figure I'm just gonna go ahead and get the ones that I do not have full-size bottle of out of the way in the beginning of the video. So the next one, we will go with Soft Tension. Now, if you guys have been on this channel long, you will know that I have a deep affinity towards tea fragrances, and this is another one I need a full-size bottle of because this is predominantly, to my nose, a mate fragrance. So you're getting this really beautiful combination of some very dry tea leaves that almost border the scent of a dry tobacco, but then you're getting a little bit of dampness coming from an oak moss that's amping up that earthy tone. but there's a little bit of freesia in the beginning, giving this a little bit of an aquatic floral feel, keeping it from going too balmy and too dark. So this feels like a very uplifting tea with subtle floral nuances and a damp earthiness that doesn't go too dirty. It's fresh and comforting and would be amazing for my fellow tea lovers. And the last one out of my samples is one that I did have a full-size bottle of. At the time, I wasn't sure about it, so I got rid of it, and now I regret it. I regret it so hard, and I hate when I do this. And that is Solstice. This is a super fun summery fragrance because this is going to give you the feeling of an ocean breeze. It's salty, it's a little bit marine, but it has a very distinct note of watermelon. And this is not going to be a candied sweet, over-the-top artificial watermelon, but it actually smells like you are eating fresh watermelon on the beach with a little bit of salt on top. It adds this sweetness and this juicy quality without being overbearing or unnatural, and it doesn't give it a sticky, syrupy quality, but rather a fresh, watery touch. And my whole gripe with it at the time was the watermelon is a little bit short-lived and it quickly turns into a muguet or lily of the valley scent. Which at the time, lily of the valley wasn't my favorite scent, as it's a white floral that can come off a little bit cosmetic smelling. But my palette has changed significantly over the years, and what was once something that I didn't care to smell can change. It's not like that for everyone, but for me personally, my tastes have changed immensely. I do wish that that watermelon note stuck around a little bit longer so that way I could really enjoy that juicy freshness without the florals coming to take it over right away. But if I'm being honest, I don't think I give it enough of a shot, and after wearing several sample sizes, I changed my mind. And this is my channel, so I'm allowed to do that. Next, we'll move on to the ones that I have travel sizes of, and just as a side note, I really like the packaging for these because I feel like they're a little bit more stout and substantial than some travel sizes that I get that I have to worry if they're going to break in my hand luggage when traveling. So good packaging on these. Let's start with Lightsource. And this, my friends, is a fig fragrance, and if you're new here, I love fig. I love it in every form. Because fig can have a lot of different characteristics. You can have an underripe fig that feels very vegetal and crunchy and green. You can have a really juicy ripe fig that's going to bring in that fruity pulpiness. Or you can get the fig sap, which has a milky quality to it. But this one comes off pretty crunchy and green and very springtime. This is going to open up very invigorating. So you're getting a lemon that gives it this tart quality along with a pink pepper that gives almost a sparkling, effervescent, nose clearing sort of feel. And along with the crunchy green fig, you are going to get a very sheer rose water essence. So you're getting something that's tangy and sparkling, a little bit herbal, and then you're getting a very delicate wash, almost like a watercolor wash of rose over top. And this fragrance was inspired by 90s rave culture, and I think they've really captured the element of sparkling lights with the pink pepper and the citrus and the kind of herbal notes that come along with it. It's a very fun and playful scent, yet it is still very wearable. Next up was an instant cult classic because this did very well with my witchy and alternative gals, and that is Coven. And this fragrance really captures the scent of the air and the soil after rainfall. It smells of freshly cut grass. It almost smells like a little bit of damp soil. So it has a dirtiness, but not in an off-putting way, in a very fresh rainfall sort of way. And I found this very interesting because Andrea Maack herself told me that during the development of this fragrance, she was really inspired by the scent of digging up russet potatoes in Iceland. So it smells of freshly cut grass, of wet soil, and of the fresh, clean, cold air that you get after rainfall standing outside of a forest. I feel like a little elf when I wear this. Now, Now, fair warning, this is a very photorealistic scent. So this is not going to be for everyone, but this is the sort of fragrance that puts you in the mood, the mindset, and creates a picture. And I'm really trying to focus on fragrances that inspire something in me. And when I wear this, I can really feel the essence of Iceland, even though I've never been there. And it takes a special talent to transport someone to a place that they've never been to using scent. And that's what I'm looking for. And on the very opposite end of the spectrum from damp soil, we have ceramic. And this on the flip side is going to be the ultimate clean girl scent. This is going to be for those of you who love the scent of cosmetics, love the scent of clean laundry, and love the scent of a little bit of pottery clay. Because whereas this does smell like freshly drying linens on the line outside, almost as if they're being sunbaked, this has a little bit of a mineral element to it as well. It doesn't smell over the top like very synthetic laundry detergents, but rather the sheets inside of a spa of a very luxury hotel. But I'll give you a little bit of fair warning with this fragrance. When you first spray it, there is this slight hint of nail varnish that literally dissipates within a couple of minutes. But when I first tried it, I was like, oh, there's something a little bit alcoholic about this scent. But as it settles in, you get something so fresh, so clean, but in a way that is tasteful. It's not over the top, like you used really cheap laundry detergent and you just were trying to mask scent, but rather luxurious, opulent, clean, and ethereal. And next up on the list is craft. And this is going to be an incense fragrance, but I don't want you to think deep and dark and smoky, but rather cold and metallic. I've described this in the past as smelling like the outside of a Roman cathedral during the middle of a winter morning. There is something very witchy and mysterious about this, but that might just be my association with churches. But it truly has a cold sensation to it. So it smells like cold metal, it smells like incense, it smells like a church, and there's something so incredibly eerie about this fragrance. But this is another fragrance that in the initial spray, in the first blast, you are going to get something that is a little bit alcoholic, a little bit acetone-esque, and that goes away quite quickly. So some of these fragrances have a particular characteristic. I'm not certain why that is, but it does go away. So spray it, let it sit, and then go back to smell it, because if you spray it and stick it right up to your nose, I don't think you're gonna like it that much, but it changes within minutes. But if cold, metallic, airy fragrances is not your thing, let's talk about something that's going to be much more deep, much more dark and sultry, and that is Jest. Now, Jest is going to be a gourmand fragrance, and this one is inspired by when Andrea went into a bakery, she smelled the scent of cake, and she wanted to make a fragrance about it. And I honestly appreciate that it's not some long, drawn-out backstory, but sometimes you just like the scent of something and you want to capture it. But she told me she's not really a sweets gal herself, so she wanted to do it in a way that felt authentic to her brand. So this is like a rich, moist chocolate cake with vanilla icing and plums on top, but on the side, you are having a boozy Manhattan. And that boozy darkness is helping to cut through the sweetness and make this into a more wearable gourmand. So although it is sticky and sweet and rich and delicious, there is something that helps to alleviate this from being toothachingly sweet. It still has a darkness to it, it still has an allure, and it keeps it from going too edible because there's a little bit of musk in the base. So the dry down of this is so intoxicating. So if you are a certified gourmand hater, you might actually still really like this because it's not too foody and it does chocolate in a really beautiful way balanced with the liquor. Now say you want something that does have sweetness, but it does not go into the edible gourmand territory. Let's go with Magma. The sweetness in this is coming from a sticky, jammy rose that is nicely balanced with some dark, rich notes. So you're getting this sweet, rich, syrupy floral tone. And that dark, rich dirtiness is coming from a black pepper, a myrrh, and a patchouli. And to me, the combination of a sweet rose along with a dark, balmy patchouli always feels very sultry. This is femme fatale, this is sexy, this is woman about her business. So if you like a sweet rose, but you like something that's a little bit dark and alluring and mysterious, you would like this one. And if Magma is the hot, sultry, powerful older sister, this one is gonna be slightly more girly. Slightly. Because you're still getting this candied rose effect, but this one in comparison is going to be a little bit more sweet with praline and honey. But she's got a moody side like her sister with some patchouli and a distinctive oud. So this is going to be a candied rose fragrance with some deep, rich woods, and the spices in here are very reminiscent of fragrances popular in the Middle East. So if you like dark and sultry rose fragrances, these two are some of my favorite of my entire collection, but if I had to pick between the two, today I would go with Magma. I think. I like them both. Next up is one of my absolute favorites from the collection, and that is Supernova. Because this is such a badass, sultry, smoky, spicy, woody fragrance that comes off very regal, very powerful, and very unisex. We've got some bright herbal qualities coming from lavender and a cypress that gives it almost like a pine needle sort of scent. But we have those warm, rich characteristics coming from a cinnamon and a saffron. But in the base, we have a leather, we have an oud, we have a vetiver. This feels rich and dark. This is a fragrance that I want to gift to everyone because it smells like a king. It smells like you would walk into a palace and this scent would trail behind royalty. If you like dark and sultry fragrances, if you like woody, spicy fragrances, highly recommend that you at least try a sample of this because this is hot. I've said this before and I'll say it again. I gave my dad a bottle of this and he said, it smells like he won the lottery and he's trying to show off. You know what I mean? Like you got money. But my personal ride or die favorite from the very beginning has been and always will be Entrance. Because everyone always tells me that I look like I would smell like patchouli, and I honestly think that's just to do with my tattoos, but if I'm going to smell like a patchouli, I want it to be this kind of patchouli. Because this is a green vanilla, and usually green fragrances aren't my favorite, but this has all the characteristics of patchouli that I really love, along with a warm, almost caramelized ambery vanilla. It's smoky and earthy and balmy like a really good patchouli, but that little drop of sweetness and warmth added by the amber makes this for the most indescribable scent. So if you like patchouli, if you like vanilla, if you like warm ambery scents, this one is truly my favorite, and I've talked about it in probably 20 other videos on my channel, but it is just that good. And next up is Dual. And this is actually my favorite fragrance to layer over top of Entrance. The two combined is fantastic. Because this one is going to be very tangy, very mouthwatering, and very refreshing with some citrus, ginger, and some pink pepper to once again give it that sparkle and effervescence. But then on the dry down, you have a beautiful dry cedar wood. So instead of being a rich, smoky sort of wood, this is going to be a clean woods, a very bright and refreshing citrus, and have some spiciness from that ginger. And in combination with the vanilla and patchouli of Entrance makes for the best combination. And we're going to wrap up today with the two latest releases, Osmo and Zing, starting with Zing. And this is also going to be a citrus fragrance, but instead of having a zesty lemon, you have a tangerine that's going to introduce that same sour, puckering feeling with a little bit more sweetness. but with a ginger, a carrot, a mate, this is going to smell like a wearable green juice. There is also something very cold and metallic about this as well, so I describe this fragrance as smelling like you made a big batch of green juice, but it is in a chilled metal pitcher. So you get that metallic feel, you get that cold feel, but you also get something that smells a little bit like a drinkable health tonic. It's tangy and uplifting, a little bit sweet, but nicely balanced with some green elements, making this for a very summertime refreshing scent. And lastly is Osmo. And this is a very interesting combination to me because this comes off very marine, very oceanic, and very salty in the beginning, like a cold ocean breeze. But salty fragrances tend to have a little bit of a gritty texture to them, and this is softened with the note of orris, giving it a little bit of a creamy, waxy feel. So this starts off like a cold, fresh ocean breeze, but the minute that orris and musk start to come in, this transforms into something that's creamy and velvety, lightly floral, and cocooning and warm. So it does a little bit of a 180 on the skin, has a little bit of a waxy characteristic, almost likened to a lipstick. But there is a delicate sweetness that kind of looms throughout the background to soften the saltiness in the beginning. It's a very fun and playful scent that really takes you on a ride and does a full 180 throughout the duration of its wear. So I hope that you guys found some fragrances that sound interesting to you in today's video because I truly adore the house of Andrea Maack. I haven't found a single fragrance in their house that I have disliked yet. So let me know down below which ones sound interesting to you. I'm always nosy and want to hear what you guys like. Thank you guys so much for making it to the end of the video. You're a real one, and tune in next week where I will see you next Saturday, 10 a.m. PST. And until then, you know what to do, my friends. Take care of yourselves, my friends.